Putting together a presentation is more than a series of slides. It's
How are you taking them on a journey? People love to be on journeys.
If you don't love yourself and love your story, you will never be able to tell it effectively.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Texera, the host of this humble show we call the No Fear Presenting Podcast. People laugh when I tell them that I love scrolling through TikTok, but it's a fantastic tool. Now that I've taught the algorithm that I like videos about design, presentations, robots, and public speaking, I get a ton of insights and ideas. As with any platform, some of the gurus that stream across your feed are questionable. But occasionally, someone like my next speaker jumps off the screen. Her advice and experience are top-notch, and she delivers it with 100-watt brightness. Welcome, Meridith Grundei. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here.
Thanks, Mike. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, same. So you feeling good? A little post-Halloween?
I'm good. Yeah, the post-Halloween jiggers or whatever. I don't know what that word is. I just made it up.
Let's bring jiggers back. I love it.
I think that's what we used to pour alcohol. So who knows?
Yeah. I'm actually excited that the day after Halloween, I start thinking immediately of Thanksgiving because it's November 1st when we're recording this. And it's like, ooh, it's right around the corner.
I'm very excited. I'm actually, my stomach, I think, is growling right now thinking about eating turkey.
Sweet. Looking forward to it. So I'd love to start off kind of acclimating my audience a little bit about who you are and stuff. For those in the audience that don't follow you on TikTok, can you tell us a little about what you do and the types of clients you work with?
Yeah, I'm a public speaking and presentation skills coach. The way I like to approach the work is helping people create experiences, not just keynotes, not just presentations, but getting their audiences more involved in the content that they're sharing and simplifying that content. I work a lot with industries like technology, finance, medical, people who have very complicated information that they get to deliver. And then I work with entrepreneurs, people who want to get out there, level up by getting on more stages or showing up here and doing podcasts and so forth. And a lot of those people I would categorize them as like the visionaries and the innovators, the risk takers, the misfits that aren't afraid to do things a little bit differently.
Right off the bat, you gave me something I'm curious about, Meridith. You said your strategy is about making people think of it as an experience as opposed to a presentation. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, I would love to. I feel that what I have witnessed time and time again is that presentations are often done with a similar energy, a similar cadence, a similar structure and style. And what happens is we lose an opportunity to truly engage with our audience. And I would imagine that the goal is to either get, whether it's your stakeholders, your customers, your clients, or whomever, them curious about your product or services so that they either buy from you or they go out and they continue to do more research or they partner with you, whatever your objective is for that particular product or service. And a lot of the time, what I'm noticing is these opportunities are lost because people aren't retaining the information that they need to retain. They're not excited about it. They don't feel motivated, whatever it is that we're leaving them with. And I feel like there's a lot lost in that. Time, money, all of it is lost in it. So my curiosity for each of my clients is, how can you create an experience, not just a keynote, not just a presentation, but an experience? And sometimes that looks different for each industry, but how do we pull our audience in so they're part of the conversation? We're not just talking at them. Or what are the questions that we're posing? What are we doing to hook them in so that they are fully engaged? What are the surprise elements within the presentation that's going to keep them also engaged? I feel even now that our attention spans are shorter and shorter. You talk about TikTok, I think the average watch time, you're lucky if you get someone to stay on your TikTok for 7 seconds. You're lucky, right? Average time is a second to 3 seconds. And I know that a presentation is very different than a TikTok, but our attention spans are still the same. And we have our devices in our pockets.
Yep.
We're distracted all of the time. So we have to step it up. Otherwise, we're just wasting money and everybody's time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. And you've worded something that I've always had to deal with when I'm working with speakers, that they have that way that they deliver. Like they learned this is my executive voice, and I always stand like this, and I always gesture like this. And you bring something so refreshing to that sometimes you're going to walk in and you're excited about the results of a research project. Sometimes you're going to walk in and you're disappointed at the results. Those two presentations shouldn't feel the same if the audience sees you twice, right?
100%. It's so funny. I get to work with Amazon AWS developers and solution architects.
Brag, name drop.
I know. I'm name dropping. Well, it's because it's relevant, Mike. It's relevant. It's not just pulling it out of thin air. Guess who I met?
No, please.
But what I noticed is that they all start like they do exactly what you just said. They're not showing their feelings behind it. And I'll always say, how do you feel about the opportunity to present this information? You designed this. How do you feel about that? Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Are you really? Are you really excited to be here? Because you are not showing me that you are excited to be here. I'm bored to tears. I wouldn't say that to them, but I need you to like show me your excitement, show me the heart. And it is so difficult when we're being modeled over and over and over again. Like, here's another presentation that I get to deliver, and here's my data dump. And I hope you understood everything I just shared. And you're going to walk away talking about the service that I just shared with you.
I'm wondering something about what you're saying here.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this? The speaker training?
The speaker training I've been doing for a while now. I was doing it when I was an actor as well. It was kind of like we, as actors and performers in the world, we're always hustling. So that was a part. It was a part of my hustle, but it was not full time, and it wasn't until the beginning of the pandemic where I turned this into a business. So I would say I've been doing it consistently for 4 years.
The reason I ask is because I've noticed something raising my kids, that in their schools now, they're actually training kids to use Google Slides and present with slides. Mm-hmm. And I find that younger clients are actually harder to retrain because, here's my theory, in middle school and high school, we're terrified to stand out. And so we create this very kind of nonchalant, here's my presentation, blah, blah, blah. Older folks who just learned bad habits through their professional career, I feel there's less ingrained stagnation. Do you feel a difference between your older clients and your younger clients?
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I mean, I feel that both of them have an element of it being ingrained in them, especially like the old, like if we're talking like 45 plus.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They've been in their career long enough. Like it's almost ingrained because they've adopted culture.
Right.
Whereas like
they're of that generation.
Yeah. Whereas like the younger people, I feel they at least bring a brightness because they understand the technologies better. But I see what you're saying. I'm saying yes. And when I was an actor, directing shows, you didn't want the actor coming and doing, let's just say, for example, a monologue from the show you're directing, or you wouldn't want them to come in totally and completely off book, making all the decisions about the character for a callback audition, because you want to have something that you can work with, right? You don't want the actor to come in fully understanding and making all of the choices, because then there's no role for the director or that collaboration. So what I'm hearing in your question is, even if you are that person listening right now who's conditioned by culture, or you've been taught something from your school on how to present Google Docs or Google Slides, to keep open mind that that's not the end result, that there's still more to learn and you haven't made all the decisions yet.
Right. I gotcha. Good point. Very cool. So let me go back to the beginning of Meredith here. Were you always a good speaker, or how did you find
No,
out that you were good?
I'm still not a great speaker. I mean, my personal philosophy is that we're all beautiful works in progress. And if I'm always figuring out how can I be better, do better, grow, learn more. I can sometimes overwhelm myself with that, but be where I'm at, right? I would say, no, I was actually terrified as a kid. I was that kid that sat in the back row because I did not want the teacher calling on me because I was really afraid of not having the right answer, and I was more afraid of sounding stupid. And I would say that sometimes those feelings come up even now in my adult years. There's times where, like in this instance, I'll do an interview and I'll say something and it won't come out the right way, or I'll use the wrong word in the wrong context. And I used to beat myself up over stuff like that. I've gotten much more gentle with myself and have given myself much more grace, because those little nuances are also what make me quirky and human. So I would say the thing that has helped me tremendously is the consistency of showing up and saying yes to opportunities that have scared me. And that I feel is, I share that with my clients. I say, if you want to get better on camera and you want to start growing your business through social media, then you need to just start showing up and doing it. And it's not going to be perfect. It never will be perfect.
Right. And how much of that, I mean, I get the like jump in and you got to do it, but you also said something very powerful that for yourself, you had to learn to give yourself grace. Now, how much of that is also the work of a new speaker to forgive themselves and to accept who they are?
I mean, I feel like that's a large part of the work. A large part of the work is the mindset piece of it, which is that you belong here. What you have to say matters, that you are interesting, regardless of how insignificant you feel your story is. I always like to challenge people and say, your story is not insignificant. There's, every story you have is interesting because it happened to you, and undoubtedly it's going to help another person, but you just need to feel empowered enough to share it. And also you need to be in a place, if it is trauma related, healed from that before you can share it. Right.
Yeah,
But yeah.
It's practice and mindset, right?
Yeah. Practice and mindset, putting in the reps.
Yeah. Now, who are your influences? Who did you look up to? Who do you model yourself after?
Oh, I will say that a lot of my influences are a little bit more obscure than your everyday influencer, but like the Amanda Palmers in the world. I had, she was the one, her TED Talk is really fun because she's like the power of the ask. And she was really one of those innovators. She's a performance artist, a person who talked about it's the power of the ask. Like when crowdfunding first came onto the scene, she like really was able to like hone in on, how to get people to just ask. And a lot of the times that's all it takes is just ask, right? We sit here, we have an on, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So she would be one of them. I would say one of my mentors, Barbara Dilley, is a huge influence on me. She was my meditation teacher. I went to a Buddhist inspired school in Boulder, Colorado, so that I could roll around on the floor and get a master's degree in performance. Her stillness is what I carry with me, her sense of stillness and her sense of heart. And she was a dancer with Merce Cunningham. She is, now she's like in her early 80s, but she's just this powerful presence. And I would say she's one of my biggest influences, because I think about her when I think about my clients, and I think about myself and how I want to walk through the world. I'm a very active, reactive person, and it really helps me when I can take those moments of stillness. It's very powerful. Right. Yeah.
And that's some pretty deep training there. You went to a Buddhist, was it a high school or?
No, this is where I got my master's degree. It's Naropa University. It's in Boulder, Colorado. It was started by Trungpa Rinpoche back in the day and the Beats. So Allen Ginsberg had a big presence there.
All right.
Philip Glass had a presence there. Meredith Monk was one of the instructors that came in and taught us. And then there was this philosophy, this methodology in acting called the viewpoints that I wanted to study, which is Mary Overly and then Anne Bogart. And Barbara Dilley was a part of that tradition. And so I utilize a lot of those skills, those methodologies with my clients as well in regards to how they relate to time and space, whether that be physically or vocally. And so that's been a really great tool. And it was a really great training to have because it was kind of opposite from what I was opposite, but similar to what I was doing prior to that, which was the improv training in Chicago, which was,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different
So
worlds.
that was all about being out here. And then there was this new training about finding the stillness, right?
Yes, because I got really excited because I started off as a dancer. So I always loved the idea of like, how do we physically occupy space and how do we do that as humans? Like one of my favorite things to do is walk around Times Square and in using my peripheral vision, darting in between all the bodies. Like my husband loves following me because I will get us from A to B like effortlessly without even brushing the shoulder of another person. It's such a fun game for me.
That's fun. That's like a dance game. That's awesome.
If you want to get to the front row of a concert, you come with me. We will get to the front row of the concert. So the improv stuff was like, yeah, because it was improv comedy is just a very different art form. And then I went to grad school and that was also improv, but it was a different style of it. So now I get to take both of those styles and help my clients. It's super fun.
This is awesome. I want to dissect those two ends of the spectrum. So when you're working with clients, one hurdle you must face is that person who's amped up, too nervous and shaking and vibrating. What is your biggest tip for finding the stillness before they go on or before they speak?
I either would say two things. One, move into the energy that you feel rather than against the energy that you're feeling to get through whatever anxiety or nervous energy that you're feeling. So if you're like amped up and you're like, oh my gosh, then like go into that more, but do it intentionally, like do push-ups and count out loud or do some jumping jacks or stand in the bathroom stall and do some Amy Cuddy power poses. But just do something to move the energy through your body, put on some tunes that you love. If, however, it's occupying you to the point where you're like, I have no control or stillness over my body, then it's about regulating that vagus nerve. It's about feeling the floor beneath your feet.
What is the vagus nerve? I don't know what that means.
So it's the vagus nerve is what is in the back of your head. It puts you in that fight or flight response. And so what we want to do is we want to regulate that vagus nerve. And we do that through breathing. So we can do that 4-part breath. So some people commonly know it as box breathing. So the inhale on a 4 count, hold on a 4 count, exhale through the mouth on a 4 count. There's another exercise I like to do, which is inhale through the nose on a 4 count, hold on a 7 count, and then exhale through the mouth on an 8 count. And that helps regulate that fight or flight response as well so that you can be more centered and then walk into the space. And I also feel what helps too is the mindset piece, which is it's less about if you hear yourself going, oh, I'm so nervous. This sucks. I can't do this. I'm dreading getting on stage, or watch that language because that impacts it too. You can transform that into, I get to do this. I deserve to be here. I'm so excited. Bring it on. And then get out there and enjoy your audience and that give and take that happens on a heart level.
Enjoy the audience. Love that phrase. All right. So that was the stillness part of the spectrum. Now, the opposite, do you ever encounter people who are so nervous they're withdrawn? They need to be brought out into maybe the more showy presence. Yeah.
Yes. All the time.
And what's your advice for folks like that? How do you work with folks like that?
One of the things I'm always encouraging my clients to do is get comfortably uncomfortable. So do things that are going to definitely feel uncomfortable for you. And so I did start a group coaching program where I teach improv exercises once a week. And I call it, it's like a workout for speakers. You come, you speak extemporaneously. I do improv games with you. We laugh a lot. We talk about where innate humor comes from. We talk about how is this applicable in your real world circumstances? And people will talk about, well, this activity you asked me to do made me incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But here's what I found after I did it, which is I'm still alive. Just like no one,
right?
No one attacked me, right? Like no one came and ate me. And people start to develop, they get better at it the more they do it. It's like a muscle. You get better at taking some risk and knowing that you might fail, and it's okay if you do, because you're going to get another opportunity to do it again.
Yeah. And it's so nice that you've got a group that's separate from their work environment where they can come and risk these things. Would you say that's valuable to kind of find that other space where you can work on your speaking talents?
Yeah, I think it is valuable. I think and I also feel like it's valuable to do it with a team too, so that you're all working from a common vocabulary. And it also builds trust there, and you get to know each other better, because the activities that we do, we're doing a lot of sharing as well. We're doing some storytelling. We get a little vulnerable. And I'm really pretty good at reading a room and not like making people like share too much too early. But I feel like, yes, it's great to do it. It's a team, you want to build those common skills. And then, yes, if you just need to get out of that work environment and try to find your unique voice without the noise of the culture that you're within, yes, that's also going to help you as well.
So both have benefits. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you love about the work you're now doing?
All of it.
There you go. Done. Next question.
Done. I love it because I have cool projects happening with different people. Like I have a cool project happening with you, Mike, which I'm excited about, so that we can start sharing more data with people on the impact that great presentation skills will have on the outcomes in your business. So I'm super excited about that. We're diving into that.
Yeah.
This whole trajectory that I'm on right now, which is helping develop experiences for companies. I have, hopefully, knock on wood, starting first quarter in 2025, I will be working with a startup on a product that they're developing, and how to create that an immersive experience to pitch differently.
Oh, okay.
To potential investors. So that's an exciting thing that I'm doing. And then my goal for 2025 is to write a book. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, nice. Love it.
Yes.
Shoot for the moon. Perfect.
Shoot for the moon. Yeah.
Shoot for the moon, kid.
Shoot for the moon.
I'm really curious about the experiential marketing/meeting thing. So it sounds like you're taking the lessons from experiential marketing, but putting it in the more day-to-day business setting. Is that?
Yeah, I want
right?
people to remember content. Like I feel like there's too much tell, there's not enough show. And I want those that you're trying to pitch your new solution or product to understand on an empathetic heart level why it's important. What would it feel like if you stepped into the shoes of the user and understood the impact of the product itself, rather than just telling? And there's just too much lost opportunity. And again, like the whole pitch community, everyone starts to sound the same too. So how do you really stand out in today's world? Yes, you have to have a good product. Yes, you have to have the outcomes. We have to see what you're uniquely bringing to the market, but there's got to be better ways to do this to where we're not boring people to death. And because I would imagine, I haven't done the research on this one yet, Mike, so maybe this is our second project, but there's a lot of innovation out there that could really be taking care of real world problems that's just not being seen because people aren't doing a good enough job of communicating its value.
Right. And we're in an age full of magic and wonder. And sometimes when I hear tech guys talking about it, it's like algorithms and learning models. And I'm like, I'm not feeling the wonder that you've just unleashed on the world. Let's
I
talk
want to
about
feel
this.
the wonder. That's all it is like,
Yeah.
help me feel how this is going to change the world.
Yeah. That's the vital. I think there's a slogan in there: less tell, more feel, more show. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't know if I've ever told you this. I grew up in a Portuguese family, so the struggle that I witnessed of people understanding who my parents really were, like they were locked behind this language, I think drives me to do what I do. Do you have a personal connection to what you do? Is there an origin that you can look back in your life and say, oh God, this is why I feel driven in this space?
Yeah, there is. And I would say it's funny because I did write a chapter in a book called, it's on my desk right now. Can I show it to you? It's this one.
Yeah.
So
we got a YouTube version of this. So yeah.
Yeah. The complete
read the
small
title
business
so that
growth.
if they're listening to the audio version,
The complete
called
small business growth book. It's a guidebook for business owners, entrepreneurs, and so forth. And so I wrote a chapter in here, and this is relevant to that question that you just asked about my connection. And the story that I open with is that I have my father passed away in 2011, and when I was about 12 years old, he all of a sudden started getting flashbacks from his time in Vietnam. And he was a Marine. He had a surgery where he was put under, and that just all of this stuff resurfaced that he had completely suppressed. And he became a very, very different person. He was irritable. He was verbally abusive. But yet at the same time, a really incredible person. And what really breaks my heart is that he grew up in a generation that didn't feel that they could share who they truly are. They couldn't share the stories and the pain in a way that we're being encouraged to do that now, because we're noticing the impact of not doing that and mental illness and the impact that has on individuals. And so that is a secret desire. It's not even a secret, I'm telling you, but it's a desire for me.
Wait a minute, it can't be a secret.
It's not serious. What drives me, my driving force, is to help people share stories, because I truly feel that my dad could have saved so many lives if he had had a way, including his own life, to share his story.
Oh.
And so it breaks my heart, and that he's not alive today, and there's still a lot about him I don't know and I don't understand. And his mental illness, I will call PTS a mental illness.
Yeah.
It impacted everything in his path, including me. And I lost confidence as I was pulled out of dance class. Dance was my love. I loved it, but my grades started to fail. I had a 1.2 GPA as a sophomore or junior, and it was sophomore in high school, which I wasn't able to go to a 4-year college because of it, because it was my way of rebelling. And so their way of trying to provide a consequence was pulling me out of the one thing I loved. Yeah. And then when I was able to go back, I fell behind, and it was through dance that I spoke for the first time from stage. When I finally got back into dance again, I spoke from stage. That's how I got into acting. Acting, I feel, is what saved my life, because I had a place with other nerdy misfits.
Yeah, right.
To hang out. And it saved me. And it was the dance instructor who heard me speak who said, you should take dance classes. And somehow my parents let me, and one thing led to the next. But I ended up with a college degree and a master's degree after that. So I turned out fine. But speaking is what changed my life. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That sounds like it was very hard, when your dad went through that and going through that. I sympathize, and I'm so heartened, because this is another example of taking a long view, and that pain really now helps so many people that you impact. So Thanks for sharing. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
Thanks for asking.
One of the things in this podcast, I think I harp on a lot, I even named the podcast the No Fear Presenting Podcast, is because I think any problems people have sharing those stories or being their authentic self is rooted in some type of fear or insecurity. The catalyst of you being on this show was a TikTok you posted about, was it the 5 common fears of perception? Can you walk me through that? What is?
I don't know if I can remember all of them.
You
right
don't remember them? All right.
Sometimes I write these things down and I'll do TikTok really quick, and I'm like, oh, I got to write a chapter about that.
All right. So let's speak in general terms.
Well, I feel like the five fears are that people aren't good enough.
If you only come up with 3, it's okay.
No, you're not interesting. You're not good enough. That you don't have enough expertise behind you. There's so many perceptions of fear, or that people are going to judge you. I feel like that's one of the largest ones. Like, that's why a lot of people don't get on social media. And
right.
I always say to people are going to judge you, and people are not going to like you. So that, I know I just named off 3 of the 5. I mean, I knew all of them. I just can't remember what order I put them in. But the biggest one, I think, is the fear of judgment and the fear of not being liked. And I always say, think about the celebrities in the world. Like if I named one celebrity right now, if I said Jennifer Aniston right now, most people are going to know who I'm talking about. And all of you are going to have a different feeling towards Jennifer Aniston. You're either going to love her, you're not going to like her, you're going to be indifferent, or you liked her when you saw her in Friends, but now you're like, stop getting too much like plastic surgery. I saw you in the morning show, Jennifer. We can pull back, right? Like, we see it. I had an opinion. So we all, right? And she still carries on. She still does her work. She still tells her stories. She's still adding value and entertainment in the world. And I say that to my clients all the time. You have a story to tell. Not everyone's going to resonate with it. Not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay, because it's really what matters is the one person that you do reach. That's what matters. And it isn't about you. It's about serving your audience and making sure. I always say, it's like, pretend you're like the host of your own party. How many of you like hosted a party, right? Do you like hosting, Mike?
Yeah. I'm an introvert, so I struggle with it. I pretend to like it, but it's exhausting for me.
Okay. My husband would say the same thing. Yeah. But he also has his opinions about how he wants guests to feel when they walk into our home. Absolutely. He's all about what music are we going to be playing? Like, what's the vibe, right?
I've created a vibe, right?
Yeah. And I'm all about, like, the house better look super clean, and the candles better be lit, and the lights better be dimmed, and the food better be good, and there better not be any dishes left over in the sink, and my kids' room should better be cleaned up, and I need to know where I'm going to put their coats, and if they take their shoes off. Like, we create these environments because we want people to feel welcomed. And you, as the presenter, have that same power. You get to create the environment that you want your audience to be in, and you get to create whatever environment you want them to feel like. It, you know what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You want people to feel good.
Yeah. And in my mind, the connection is that not everybody's going to like you, much like when you're setting up an environment, different people focus on different aspects. So the people that connect to that aspect that they do find attractive, those are your tribe. Those are the people you're speaking to, and those are the ones that you're going to impact. And don't worry about the rest,
Yes.
Yeah. Like, ultimately, your husband focuses on the music. That's what matters to him.
That's what matters to him. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the person who knows the music is going to walk in the room and be like, oh, you're playing the National. And he'll be like, yes, or whomever.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your move to TikTok, from the stage to public speaking. What attracted you to a channel like TikTok? Or you're on Reels too, I assume?
Yeah, I'm on Reels. I'm less on Instagram. I'm more on TikTok, just for sanity reasons, I can't be everywhere. No one can.
Right.
Right. So I do the LinkedIn and the TikTok, and then I am on Instagram, but I just repurpose there. But what attracted me to TikTok was I was in Clubhouse, and there was somebody in Clubhouse who was like, you should try TikTok. And I was like, really? I did that thing that a lot of people do. Isn't it just a bunch of people dancing?
Right.
Or showing me how to make weird food in air fryers. And so I got on there, and I think I was only on it for 2 months, and I had posted maybe 3 times a week. And then I had one video go viral, and I went overnight from 200 followers to 25,000 followers. And then 6 months later, I didn't really have a strategy, but 6 months later, I did the same content, did the same video, and went from 25,000 to 100,000 followers.
Topic. What is that topic? That topic is really resonating.
How not to start a presentation.
Blew
up. And now everyone has that video. I feel like I was the trendsetter. Thank you very much.
There you go. You're the trailblazer.
The trailblazer for that content. Yeah. Because the thing that I was just noticing is that everyone always started their presentations exactly the same way. I would just sit from one presentation after the next, and they were all like, hi, my name is, and thank you for being here. And I'm lucky because I just got to sit for 3 weeks just listening to one presentation after the next. And I was just picking up on these patterns. And I was like, this is terrible. Because I don't care.
You say that, right? And it goes back to what you were saying about people's fear of not being liked. It's almost like they first need to justify being there. Here's who I am. Here's my experience. I'm going to thank the people who invited me. I am invited to this. You know what I mean? It's please like me before you start.
Please like me. Please like me. And no one cares. People care. They want you to succeed, but they want to know how you're going to solve their problem.
Right.
That's what they want. They just address that first. Just address what are we doing here?
Right.
Address that
Talk
first.
to me a little bit more about that. How do you teach people to focus in that way on the audience?
So I always use this example of, for those who are theater goers, or if you've ever been to New York City and have seen a Broadway show, I always use The Lion King because it seems to be a well-attended Broadway show that I have seen, so I can use the example. But imagine that you spend all this money, you go sit in the theater, and someone walks out onto the stage, and the lights are up everywhere. The audience lights, nothing's dimmed yet, but someone walks out onto the stage and says, hi, thank you all for coming to The Lion King tonight. My name is, I'm the stage manager, and I just wanted to let you know that the running time of the show is 2.5 hours with 1 intermission. And our actors are ready tonight. And if something, it's all puppets. So if something goes wrong, oh my goodness. I've even heard presentations where I don't really, the tech, I don't understand the tech. So if something goes wrong, we'll just take who does that, right? You wouldn't do that. What happens is you sit down as an audience member, the lights dim, the music swells, the curtain starts to open, and this magical world is revealed.
Right.
And the narrative starts.
Right.
Why are presentations not like that?
Yeah,
why?
Exactly.
I'm not saying be the Lion King, but I'm just saying be intentional about your opening.
Yeah, engage them and don't make them your enemy. I feel like sometimes we unintentionally, by doing a long, verbose intro or going through a company bio that, people can look up quickly on LinkedIn in 2024, they go through all that. The audience ends up getting resentful and being like, come on, you're wasting my time. And now not only do you have to explain maybe a complex topic, now you also got to win them back. So you end up shooting yourself in both feet,
I would agree. Yeah. So I always say to people, There's many ways that you can hook your audience. Story is a powerful way to do that. Statistics are a powerful way to do that, like a quote, using props rather than always leaning on PowerPoint, like, the intro slide. I always question, do we need the agenda slide? Can you just tell me in your introduction, please, what you're going to talk about? So there's all of these different ways that we can engage our audience so that they clearly understand why we're there. And they're going to be more excited to listen to you because they're going to get, if you're clear about the key takeaways, they're going to go, okay, now, she just did key takeaway number 1. She just did 2. She just did 3. I've gotten a lot of value. She just solved my problem. That's what my question, like, thank you. Thank you for that.
We had a reason we invited you into this room and you're serving that reason. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Creates that gratitude loop.
It does. Yeah, it does.
That's awesome, Meredith. That's what I love about conversations with you. I love that we're so in sync with our strategy, but you have a different way of saying it and different examples. I love the Lion King example. Very cool. I was blown away. I didn't know what to expect for the first time. I remember this is, decades ago when I went to the Lion King. I was like thinking it was going to be similar to the cartoon, and I was blown away by the puppetry. It was just phenomenal, and I love when I'm blown away. And this makes me think about your attempts to make it more of an experience. People are expecting you to stand in front of that room and have the same old kind of slides. What can you do different? How can you re-envision what you're walking people through? Interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't expect my clients to be performers. And I just don't want, listeners to be confused by that. But what I do expect is that they understand that you giving a presentation or a keynote is performative. There's a performative element to it. And you have to bring a heightened sense of yourself into the space. And it doesn't mean being false or somebody that you're not. It just means bringing a heightened sense of who you are into this space.
Oh, nicely said. Question: what would you say is your favorite success story? Do you have one that you think of every time you think of the people that you've trained and the work you've done? Is there one time that you were like, wow, that's my favorite transformation I've seen?
Yeah, I do. I will say anytime I get to go into a company and teach improv, because nobody really knows what I'm about to do with them, and they all look terrified and resentful. By the end of those trainings, everyone is laughing and happy and excited. Maybe I'll have one naysayer who still has their arms crossed, but that's a bigger problem that I can solve in that room. Those always make me feel incredible. And to just see a group transform together, there's nothing better in the world. Now, on an individual level, there is one client that always stands out for me. Her name's Tina. She lives here in New York City. She, English is her second language. She started coming, I met her as well in Clubhouse, and she started coming to my Confidently Speaking program, which is improv for speakers. And the first class, she couldn't even get a whole sentence out. She just would question herself, judge herself, and just, nope, can't do, close down. Oh my God, like 3 years, we're now 3 years later, she's still showing up. It's like her gym membership. And she has launched a book, and she gave a 20-minute talk for her book launch. She had a goal last year to do 100 podcasts and hit that goal. She stood up at this network group that she belongs to, that I came and watched her do a quick 10-minute spiel about what she does. She's on fire, and she just keeps doing it. And she keeps putting out content on, like, I just had lunch with her last week to help her with the internal edits for her reels that she was doing on Instagram. And she just keeps putting content out there. She doesn't care if it's perfect. And I love it. She's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. That is an awesome story. I love that. All right. So from the high highs to the low lows, has there ever been a time where you feel you swung and you missed? And what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I would say it's when you can kind of feel it. Like you kind of feel those clients that they really, really want to do it. And they know that they need to be better at speaking, but their fear is so big that they can't commit to the work.
Right.
And I have felt sad when I've brought on those clients that I know I can help them, but they don't put in the work, and they'll do things like not do the homework or reschedule multiple times or not keep agreements. And I understand we're all busy, busy people. I get that. And a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs or they're in leadership positions. I get all of that. But that's just doing a disservice to you. And I don't want to keep your money either. So I'll gladly give money back. But I would say those are the ones that are really hard for me because I see the potential and I see that they want to. And I don't know if they would label it as fear, but that's what I'm seeing from my vantage point. To be quite frank, I don't even get to really coach people in those instances.
Because if they're not meeting you there, then you're just hitting a wall, kind of.
Yeah. And then the other ones that I've had are the individuals who I already present 5 or 6 times a week. I've been doing it for years. I'm like, okay,
right,
that's great. And I'll usually, if it's in a group setting, I'll just like, well, then tell me, what would you have done here? I'll pull in like, I want to hear your expertise. Right. And I mean this with a lot of like grace and love, but a lot of the times I would say 95% of the time when I get somebody like that, they actually need a lot of work. They talk too fast. Their slides are too full of content. They pace. Right. They're not connecting with their audience. They're just doing the mechanics. Because they do it so much, it becomes mechanical.
Yeah. Right.
But sadly, it's like that actor that overly prepares and there's nothing that you can do with them. They've already made all the choices.
Yeah, I've been there. They've hidden behind some bad habits and then they've convinced themselves that those bad habits are good. Well, yeah. And then it's very hard to turn the light bulb back on and say, look in the shadows. There's places to improve.
Yeah. And I learn a lot about myself every time I get to coach somebody that's a little bit more challenging. That like I haven't perfected it yet. I think it's a gift. There's ways there's ways that I can keep growing, as I said at the beginning of our talk.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of growing, you speak about working with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of experienced people. What is the one piece of advice you think is the most useful for someone just starting out public speaking, just starting out and getting up and presenting? What is the one thing they can work on as a beginner?
Keep finding small opportunities where you're forced to speak. Just whether that be you say yes to an Instagram live with somebody, or you get on a podcast, or you do a social media video, or get into a LinkedIn audio room. Just find those little opportunities where you can use your voice. Or maybe if you're somebody that doesn't speak up often in meetings, you start speaking up a little bit more. Or maybe because we are in such a remote world now, you're in a culture where you're forced to, like everyone pretty much most of the time has their cameras off during a meeting. Maybe you have yours on.
Oh, I love that you said that. Big
right?
Pet peeve. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like turn yours on, because then maybe there will be more likely there's going to be a chance that you're going to speak. So allow yourself to just show up. That's where I would say start. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking of my work with some younger designers and whatnot. And one thing that I had to learn is culturally, they were very used to emailing or texting and avoiding the voice-to-voice calls. So even that small act I found of saying, hey, you've just gone 25 emails and you still don't have the answer you want. Why don't you try picking up the phone? And it'll get you right to the answer you need. And you get to practice that voice, that listening and that replying. Those are important habits. So
Well, now
think we're
you
saying
can
the
leave
same
voice
thing.
memos.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
I leave them. I always start mine off with, though, do you like I'm doing, this is a phone. This is not a phone, by the way. I always start off in improv. This is a phone.
Yeah.
I always start off with, if you don't like voice memos, you need to let me know because I leave them all the time. Because there are people who vehemently hate them.
Yeah. Which goes back to your audience. Focus on your audience. What method do they like? Voice memos? Out. Okay. Next time I'll show up in
My
person.
husband's like, stop sending me voice memos. Well, now you can read the transcript.
Oh,
so
yeah. There you go.
You're going to be getting more voice memos.
There you go. Perfect. Well, this has been a lovely conversation. I love to end with the big key question here. What are you afraid of, Meridith? And how do you get over it?
What am I afraid of?
Yeah. What's one thing you're afraid of?
What is one thing I'm afraid of? Oh, I don't know. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of spiders. Let's see. What else am I afraid of?
Living in New York and just getting through Halloween, I commend you. You got through spiders.
I mean, that's a really great question. I wish I had. I do feel like sometimes I'm afraid of success.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm afraid of success.
How so? What are you afraid is going to happen if you're successful?
I don't know. I mean, that's the weird thing about it. Like we have ideas in our heads of, one could argue I'm already successful.
Right? You're viral on TikTok.
I'm viral on TikTok. Not everybody is viral on TikTok. Right?
Exactly.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't really know. It's interesting. I feel like, I don't know. I think this is like, we need to unpack this one. I don't know if we have this much time for your listeners, but I would say yes. And I'm afraid of success, but I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah. So what do you do when to face it down?
I just keep showing up every day and I reach out to people. Oh, this was an assignment I used to do with my students when I was teaching the business of acting, which is reach out to one person that scares the crap out of you. And ask them for something. Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say no, or they don't respond.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what's the best thing that could happen?
That's where the magic is, right? They give you something you weren't expecting. They reply. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep showing up. I love that, Meridith.
So I'm going to reach out to one person that scares me today. Who's one person that scares you, Mike, that you get to reach out to?
Who is one person that scares me? That's a great question. I wasn't expecting. I think successful people. I'm thinking of a person who runs another agency, who made a lot of money really quick. They're really good at using social media. Now I feel really weird, and we came up together. I feel really weird talking to that person that I have in mind because the imposter complex, I'm like, wow, his career has excelled so high, so fast. So now I find myself not reaching out, not replying to messages. Yeah. That person scares me a little bit right now.
Gotcha. Are you going to do one thing to reach out to that person?
Hell yeah. After talking to you, you've inspired me.
Good.
I will.
Okay. Now I have to find someone.
Yeah, exactly. How can people find you?
You can find me on Grundei Coaching. It's GRUNDEI coaching.com or LinkedIn or TikTok at Grundei Coaching.
Very good. It's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, thank you for the conversation. I appreciate this. This is fun.
As always, I had a great time. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll let you know when the podcast is up.
Amazing. Thank you.